Hey, how's it going? In this video, we're going to go over how one of our clients did their very first $1 million month the other month, and exactly how if you're a brand between 50 to 250K a month, how you can scale to $1 million without breaking ROAS, without doing any sort of crazy offers, okay? And by the way, my name is Peter, spent over $8 million in ads, and I run an agency where we add $1 to $2 million to ecom brands' bottom lines in the premium niche. All right, let's get into the video. Just to show you a little bit of proof, this is just last month, like 1.15 million, I guess. So pretty solid, up, 70% from the last year. So again, they had some traction already. This is for brands between the 50 to 250K a month market. This is really how you can go and scale that. So let's go ahead and get into it. And just to show you like what a normal month would look like, here was March, and obviously it's quite a bit less, but still good, but quite a bit less from that. So let's get into it. Cool. And just to show you what actually went into this, around 673K was generated via ads, Google ads and TikTok, which I'm not going to go into ad strategies today. This is going to be a higher level than that. And so about 63% of what we do accounted for this $1 million, right? So this is what we handle as the ad part. So we had about 63% of the say in getting to that point, if that makes sense from the ad perspective. Cool. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing is your new to old customer ratio. Again, I don't see this talked about very often. And really what this is how many new customers are buying each month and how many old customers are buying each month. So on Shopify, this is like the customer return rate and really how many people are coming in for the first time and how many people are repeat purchasers. So when you're scaling to $1 million a month, it's really important to have this balance because some brands will exhaust all of their old customers. They'll be at like a 70% customer return rate and they won't have any new customers coming in. Or the other way that it happens is 90% of the customers coming in are new, and then most of the old customers don't buy again, which is also a problem. There's a balance here, and it does depend on the niche you serve. Obviously, a subscription product is very different from a expensive sofa, right? But at the end of the day, you need to understand what your new to old customer ratio should be, okay? So the advantage of new customers when scaling is, or really the pros and cons is that they are expensive to acquire, but they have more potential energy, meaning you're going to pay a lot more for a new customer to buy from you for the first time, but because it's their first time, they have more potential to spend more over their lifetime than an old customer just because it's their first time in. So on the back end, they might be worth more because there's more potential energy there. The other thing is that new customers are bad for ROAS, right? So when you're scaling, you might want to focus a lot on retargeting to get to that first $1 million month. But again, you have to keep that balance. With new customers, they are bad for ROAS. It's more because it's more expensive, of course, but they're good for brand growth. So again, on the other side, when you get those new customers, that creates this cyclical effect where you can use them in retargeting audiences, where you get that word of mouth, that review, that testimonial, which becomes leverage for your brand. People just become more aware, again, through word of mouth. So while they are expensive, you do need to maintain a high amount of new customers. But with old customers, what's nice about them is that they're cheap to get. Cheap to get them to buy another thing, right? Because they already trust you, you can show them an ad, a retargeting ad, send them an email, shoot them a text. It's a lot cheaper than doing an ad, and you can get them to buy again for a cheap amount. So it's really good for ROAS, right? It's easy to get a high ROAS on a bottom of funnel campaign. The issue is they do have lower potential energy because they've bought more, so they've oftentimes don't have as much left, right? Because they've literally just known you for longer. So they've already spent some of the money that they would have with you. And they're not great for brand growth. Again, because they are old customers and are buying again, that's great. That means they probably have told people about it. But they're not going to be spreading the brand. You're not getting more people's eyes on the product by getting an old customer. And you need those new customers. You just need to expand the brand so everyone knows about you. Obviously, with old customers, that's not going to work, okay? So there's a balance here. What we found for a premium brand, this is really for any brand doing $200 and up in AOV, in this case 500, 70 to 30 new to old customer ratio is the perfect place to scale at. So every month we want to see that 30% of our purchases are coming from old people, from old customers, and 70% are coming from new first-time buyers. That's a nice growth trajectory. It's very stable because we still got that nice base of that 30% old customer base. We know people like the product, but we want to keep scaling and keep our top of funnel campaign budget high so we continue to have new customers in. So 70-30 for us is what we found to work for this particular brand. And I think for most brands, the 70-30 mark is a good place to be, okay? Cool. So next is creative rigidity, and this really has to do with scaling on Facebook or TikTok or whatever it may be, right? So When you have creative, right, when you're testing creative to get you to that initial 50 to 250K mark, you're just looking for volume. You're trying to get as much creative as you can. What we're doing when we're scaling to $1 million is we need so much creative because stuff burns out so quickly because our ad spend budgets are high that we need to find the 2% of creatives that work for years. So our mindset going in is we need to find creative that has lifelong or year-long ability to create sales. And that's really just statistically 2% of creatives because by definition, most of your creatives are going to be average, and that 2% outlier is really what we're looking for. So for that 2%, how much does it take to get to that, right? So 2% simply means testing 50 creatives for one lifelong or year-long winner. So really what we're doing is we're doing a mass amount of creative testing to find those 2% of creatives that literally perform day after day, day after day, day after day to continue to perform. We have creatives that have performed for years, literally years, and they will continue to perform. And it's simply because we've tested 50 to get to that single one that works well, right? So when you're scaling, obviously it's about scaling budgets, vertical and horizontal scaling, of course, scaling audience size, but it's also about scaling your creative output to find those lifetime winners because that's going to be a way bigger ROI than really anything else, okay? Cool. So next is open up messaging. So again, when you're scaling, again, most of the time you're going to be scaling through using ads. And what we're finding is that, of course, yes, you need to open up the pool of people you're targeting, right? Because you can't be hyper-targeted when you're trying to get $2 million a month. You need to open up the amount of people you're targeting to get more people in, which does, it increases the cost per click, it decreases the conversion rate, and obviously decreases ROAS, which is why your ROAS drops when you scale, right? Which we'll get into in a second here. But the other thing you have to open up is if you have targeted messaging, you need to open that up to appeal to a broader audience, right? So to get to 100K a month or 250K a month or 300K a month, you found messaging that worked for a specific niche, right? You found very specific messaging that appeals to specific people for the most part. People with X problem, people that have this one thing, etc. To get to $1 million a month, you need to make the messaging have a broader appeal. This is the most important thing. So you can no longer just appeal to the specific niche. You need to figure a way out in which your product can fit into more people's lives and how you can make messaging that has a broader appeal. So for example, with this particular brand, we're talking quite a lot about the product features, some of the keywords that our target customer likes. But to get to $1 million a month, we opened it up. We started talking about like social issues. We started talking about like family and life and like way higher level things than like product and things that we know our target customer is interested in. We open up the messaging to appeal to way more people. So we got really broad with our messaging, and that attracted more people in the top of funnel, which enabled us to actually scale. If you don't do that and you keep that funnel small, only hitting very specific people in your niche like you did most likely to get here, then when you scale, it's just not going to work because, again, you're not hitting enough people, a broad enough range of people to actually scale, right? So opening up the messaging, you need to get, to get to $1 million, you need to make that messaging have a broader appeal, okay? So open it up, make it more broad, make it apply to more people than just your target niche. Cool? All right. So, and again, this has to do with not only your copy, but the creative and landing page. So again, messaging is everything that people touch when it comes to your brand. So your copy needs to be a bit more broad. Creative might need to be a bit more broad. Landing pages might need to be a bit more broad, just so you can appeal to more people. Because again, there is a real market saturation at $1 million a month. So you need to open up that funnel. All right. Next is being number aware. Really obvious. Again, to get to that 50 to 250K a month point, you already probably know your numbers pretty well. But again, it's important to do the calculations when you're scaling. So do you have room to scale? Are you at a 3x return? And if it goes to a 2, are you going to be unprofitable? And is that going to be a problem for you? If so, you probably can't scale. You need to increase that ROAS, right? So you need to make sure, obviously, with your ROAS, you have room to scale. And not only with ROAS, because of course that drops, but also your conversion rate. If you're at like a 2% conversion rate, is it okay if that goes to a 1% if your volume doubles, right? Will that still work out on the numbers? So you need to make sure that your ROAS can halve, that your conversion rate can halve, your volume can double, and you'll be okay. That makes sense with whatever you're selling. So do you have room for scale is a really big question. And we answered that right when we started with this client to make sure that no matter what we do, we will have room to scale. And we knew the numbers we had to hit in order to scale. So we saw the ROAS. We said we need to hit this ROAS before we scale because we know it's going to have. We need to make sure your site has this conversion rate before we scale because that conversion rate is going to have, right? That's all it is. And again, like what will that drop be? So as you start to scale up budgets and your targeting and messaging, you'll start to see what your ROAS drop is. And so you can start to kind of estimate, hey, if we're at a 4 right now and our ROAS is dropping 0.25 by every $15,000 we increase our budget by, we can kind of estimate, okay, if we scale it to this amount, our ROAS will likely drop to this range. We've been able to pretty accurately predict ROAS for this brand simply by just taking the average of our ROAS over the time that we scale and then just understanding how much we spent to that scale and then just doing the division, and we can kind of understand for every X amount we spend, we're going to see this much drop in general, more or less, right? So that's kind of what we use to see that. All right, and of course, just understanding sessions times conversion rate times AOV. So again, if your conversion rate drops and your sessions double and your ROAS drops, so the cost to get these sessions increases, is it going to work out, right? So these are the questions you have to answer when scaling. Cool. All right. And I would say actually one more thing on scaling. So one example of this is we had this brand that we were working with for quite a while, actually. They're in the lipstick space, big brand in the lipstick space. Their Facebook and some of their other channels were literally stuck at a 3 to 2x return, and every time they tried to scale it wouldn't go higher. It literally would not go higher. They were spending an egregious amount a day, and they're trying to spend more, but they literally hit a point where they actually saturated the market on Facebook, Instagram, and some other platforms to where they literally were hitting everyone in their demographic that could afford the product, and they were stuck at a ROAS because they tried to scale past it. This actually does happen when you're going for those $1 million months. So with them, and they were already close to $1 million. So again, at $1 million, this becomes a real problem. But so with them, the thing that was missing was not understanding these numbers and understanding, hey, your ROAS is about to halve if you double this. How can you make the brand have a broader appeal, and how can you increase that conversion rate to the point where even if it halves, it still works out? So for them, all these things were an issue, but I would say this was a particular case. Okay. All right. One of the last ones here is going to be the quarterly niche offers. So quarterly offers, so 4 times a year, are the difference between a $100K a month store and a $1 million store. And no, this doesn't mean do crazy discounts and give all this stuff away. No. Offers are all it is, the only reason you really want to do an offer to get to $1 million is to clear out your bottom of funnel and just get people in, okay? So the main thing is to get more people in the funnel, get more people on top of funnel, move those people on top of funnel to middle, and get those middle funnel into bottom to actually convert on your next offer. And of course, number 3 says, this will clear out your bottom of funnel and get those middle back into bottom, right? Or into bottom for the first time. So those are really the keys. It really just fills your funnel up on the top end and it clears it out on the bottom. And that's what we need to do. We just need to get as many people in the funnel as possible, and then they'll convert on the next offer. And of course, number 2 is really important. It creates brand excitement because, again, at $1 million a month, brand does matter. And so you need to create that brand excitement to actually get people to be interested in the brand and talk about it. And offers are a great way to do that. But big note here is that offers must be niche specific. So if you're a luxury brand, all you should be doing is a little discount, and that should be it. If you have a cheap product, a $20, $30 product, free gifts are going to be huge. That offers a lot of value. Bundles are good for mid-range products. So it's those kind of offers. You need to understand not only the niche you're in, so the people you're serving, what kind of offers they're receptive to, those particular people, but also what kind of offers make sense for your brand, right? So again, luxury, just 1%. Really inexpensive product, free gift, because a free gift with an already cheap product is mind-blowing, right? A mid-range price product, usually bundles are a good way to do that. So again, niche specific on the brand side, on the product side, but also on the target customer side as far as who you're serving, okay? So let's run through these one more time. All right. So first and foremost, new to old customer ratio, understand what it needs to be for you. Again, we find for most brands, 70-30 is a good range to be at. So maintain your spends on your top and bottom of funnel to be at this mark, okay? Next is creative rigidity. You need to find those top 2% of creators that work for years. Otherwise, you're really not going to be able to scale to $1 million a month, which means testing 50 creators for one winner. And this goes for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, really any channel, doesn't matter, okay? Next is open up your messaging. Make your messaging apply to more people and have a broader appeal. At $1 million a month, market saturation does become a problem with some of these ad platforms. So you need to make sure that you have a very broad appeal, okay? Cool. Next is number aware. Just understand, do you have room to scale? If your ROAS and conversion rate halve and your volume doubles, your session site visits double, how is that going to work for you? Like, is that going to be okay, right? Like, that's the question. And you know, if your cost per click doubles, your conversion halves, like, how's that going to work? So you just need to understand those things. Cool. And the last one here, or one of the last ones, is going to be quarterly niche offers. Make sure you're doing offers on a quarterly basis. That's always a good time frame, because that's just going to clear out your funnel and move people along and create that brand excitement, which compounds. And then the last one, of course, is just like, those offers must be niche specific. Okay. They have to be niche specific. Cool. All right, guys. I hope this video helps. And again, if you can't get $2 million a month by implementing some of these strategies, then call me up. I'll help you out. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.